I have a couple of questions for you. First off, when you say you're going to a French fest, are you talking about the badge?
Just the routine is delicious.
And the serious question is, have you ever considered turning Dragon Age into an MMO, like how you turned the whole Republic into
we should write this down. Co-op included.
I'm passionate because you have this full world fleshed out, and sometimes it would be nice to experience it with other people.
Well, that would be the multiplayer.
You answered this at
co-op.
PAX last year, didn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly in the future, someday, an MMO wouldn't be outside the cards, but it would never replace a core line of storytelling games. So it would become a supplementary product if we did it, and there are no current plans to do that this year.
All right, thank you very much.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for making 2 games that I know I enjoyed, and understanding that the second game may not have been as good in some people's opinion as the first one, but understanding that and doing your best to fix what the community said was wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, you have to.
Basically, Dragon Age 1 was basically a player-friendly warrior graphics monsters, whereas Dragon Age 2 was more of a interhuman, interspecies conflicts. And I'm curious, which one do you think were better, and which one do you think the players are better?
That's okay. So the question was, which story worked better? A man versus monster, essentially, or man versus situation. That's kind of a good way to sum it up. So I think probably from a fulfillment of something we wanted to do with Origins, which was build out a world and show what it was like in terms of peril. But definitely Blight was the right way to do it, because the Blight mandated bringing societies together, and so you had to see all these disparate groups coming together. To be fair, though, the structure of Origins was something that we've done before. It's familiar, which is good, but it's also, maybe a bit too familiar. So we wanted to try and do something a little bit different. If only because, as a team, we've been working on Origins for a very long time. Dave, 5 years at that point, 6. And just going right back into a very similar story was a bit kind of nerve-wracking. So we said, let's see if we can challenge ourselves, shake ourselves up a bit. And so that's where a more personal story, something that kind of dealt with, well, someone who wasn't, kind of in charge of the army, what happened with them. So I think the DA2 story worked. I think that it let us explore themes we hadn't done before, like family and loss, in a way we've never done. The hero doesn't lose much in our games. Well, Mass 3 accepted. And everything there just takes your heart away. It's just, anyway, so the, and Alex. Yeah. So the end result. Just So anyway, it was a different story. It was one that I think for us was a good thing to kind of, challenge ourselves. I think, given that we'd like to do bigger scope, we might have to go with a bigger enemy again, which is not entirely a bad thing, but I think we've learned some really valuable lessons out of it in a lot of it. So that, I honestly very glad we did.
From my perspective, they both had perfectly valid approaches. I would not pick one over the other. But I don't think that just because what we did last was that personal story, that we necessarily would do that again. I think we will, for a third or future versions of the game, we'll try something a little bit different again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. I was more curious about character interaction. It was great, awesome in Origins, but so-so in Dragon Age 2.
Oh, you would have, were we thinking about that, or we might change?
Oh, if you would go back to maybe
In terms of overall volume of interactions with your followers, you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The actual volume was the same, but how we divvied it up was quite different. A lot more interaction in DA2 was in the follower plots. The followers had like 3 big plots each in DA2, because you had the time juice, right? While DAO, they had like one small quest, so more of interaction was just talking to them at the camp, that sort of thing. I think looking at the reactions to the 2 games, I think some players felt that like they didn't have agency over their interactions with the followers because there's less of them, and because we had this feature that's told you when they had new dialogue, people felt like they were responsible for initiating that dialogue. So okay, cool. Hearing that, it's like okay, agency is important. So I think what we'd like to do is bring some of that interaction back to just talking to them at the camp, giving your follower a kiss if you want, and then asking them questions, but also still having as much of the character growth for each follower that we did get in DA2. I think there is actually a middle ground, and I just want to give the players a little more feeling like they're the ones who are in charge of their relationship.
Thank you.
Hi. So both my fiance and I, through Dragon Age 1 and 2, we take very different paths, and we end up having a bunch of save files. Oh, you gotta come over and see how this conversation led. Oh, I gotta show you how this cutscene turns out when you get this ring with Aveline. Is there any hypothetical plan to make it easier to share those unique, beautiful cutscenes and experiences with other people, either in your household or online?
So definitely, we are looking at ways to allow you to share, if not your cutscenes, at least the story that you're experiencing with other people playing the game to sort of show that that difference in experience. I don't want to give any more detail than that right now, but yes.
Thank you. So let's say, for the sake of argument, I'm one of those jerks that actually didn't care about no voice acting in Dragon Age versus rewarded, and liked more options of dialogue, and liked all the different origins and everything, because it helped allow me to picture that person as my character, no matter what origin I chose, no matter what path I took in the game. I felt like it was mine and rewarded. Whereas in Dragon Age 2, you have Mass Effect, it always feels like it's BioWare's fault, or BioWare's Shepard, that no matter what choices I make, it's not my character. It's just I'm kind of directing someone else's character along. In this new Dragon Age, are you going to try not to make some sort of compromise in there, or is it more people prefer the Shepard involved approach? So that's pretty much where you're going to go. So first off, that's not a tricky question. I mean, we've gone back and forth. I think sometimes people wonder, like, well, we just arbitrarily make this decision. Do God? We
argue.
Yeah. So that's going to be true. But what we found is it seems